So it was almost by accident I ended up in data. So I was see patients day in, day out. I was very burned out from COVID hit. I said, that's it. I'm out. I can't be doing this anymore. Data. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea. Like, how can I analyze data?
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, hi everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. And today with us we have a special guest, Thais. She's a senior data analyst working in the healthcare
Mhm.
sector in US. Yeah. And today we will get to know her journey, getting into healthcare domain, and she is also very active on LinkedIn. She has around 80K followers, more than. And yeah, Thais. So could you just start with a brief introduction?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Thais Cooke. I am a senior healthcare data analyst. And prior to that, I used to work in clinical healthcare, more specifically in dentistry. And I did a career pivot back in 2021. So I have been loving working with data ever since, still in healthcare and loving every minute of it. Really enjoy what I do.
Okay, so how did your journey started into this data domain? So you were in the healthcare sector, or you just after education you decided that I should go into data analyst field?
So it was almost by accident I ended up in data. So I was working, like I said, I was working in clinical healthcare. So I would see patients day in, day out. I was very burned out from working the industry, and I knew I needed something. I needed a change, just didn't know exactly what. And when COVID hit, I said, "That's it. I'm out. I can't be doing this anymore." Took a step back, and I remember I talked to a friend of mine, and we're just, having a conversation. I mentioned, oh, I'm not working anymore. Told her my reasons. And sometime later, she contacts me. She said, listen, she works for a dental lab. She was a manager at a dental lab. And she said, I need somebody who knows the terminology in dentistry to enter data. There was just data entry at that time. She said, you're going to receive the cases. They're all online, all virtual. You're going to put the information and, put the information on our website, and that's it. That's data entry. I'm like, okay, so nothing fancy, was literally like just enter data in a Google sheet. Okay, so I start doing that, and then after a while I start noticing some patterns on the data. So I'm a little bit of a geek. So I start
Oh,
noticing things. Yeah. So I start noticing things like, oh, we're receiving so many implants this month. Or, oh, we haven't seen this office in a while. They're sending us cases again. I wonder what happened. Why they didn't send us cases for, the past 3 months. So the wheels of my brain start turning, and I literally went on Google and I said, how to analyze data. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea. Like, how can I analyze data? And I started going, from, one website to the next. I stumbled upon on YouTube, Alex the Analyst YouTube channel,
oh,
and he was saying, yes, everybody knows Alex. I say, I'm here because of
yes.
him. It's his fault. It's all his fault. In one of the videos, he was saying how he also transitioned from healthcare into data analytics, and he was telling his story. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know that was possible, that I could do this. One of the things that he stressed was SQL. You have to learn SQL, you have to know SQL. So I say, okay, you know what? Fair enough. This is what I'm going to do. If I can learn SQL because it looks important, that's what I thought at the time, um, I'm going to go down this path. If it's something that goes completely over my head and makes no sense, I know this is not for me. And I say that I fell in love with SQL from day one. When I wrote like the select star, I was hooked. So I'm like, I love this. Oh my God, I can do so much with my data. I can't believe this. So I went back, started analyzing the data, started learning visualization skills. I started with Tableau at that time. And with time, I start doing that. I went back to my manager and I said, listen, I have been playing around with the data mentoring and this is what I found. What do you think? And she said, how did you know how to do this? And then I told her what I had been up to. Oh, I'm learning and this and that. And she said, yes, please keep doing this. I need to know which offices are sending us cases, which offices stop sending us cases, and all of this. So she had so many questions. And so I kind of sort of became a data analyst on the spot right there. But this was a small business, was we didn't have a data team, a database, nothing, big like that, at least that I know of. And yeah, so with time, I start to get better and better and start applying to bigger companies until I got to the company that I am now, that is in the healthcare industry. So that was it. Yeah, it's true about Excel, I mean, I particularly don't use much Excel at my work, but I know plenty of data analysts who use a lot of Excel, and hey, they do an amazing job. They're great data professionals. So I say as a joke, I say if there's a nuclear war, only two things are going to survive: cockroaches and Excel. Excel is going to be around. And I would even
Yeah,
include
see,
SQL there too. So three things.
yeah, I was gonna add
Yeah.
sequel as well because
SQL.
it's been around from 1980s almost, and every
Hmm.
new tool comes and they start saying that okay, we don't need to use SQL more because SQL is not intuitive. Like its coding is easy, you can learn easily, but it's not intuitive. Okay, first you need to write select, then you need
Hmm.
to write from. Basically, why do you need to write first from and then select, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but Excel and SQL both are here, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's quite interesting that your journey from directly from healthcare and then into like data entry kind of role, and then now you are a senior data analyst. So it's quite inspiring that if anyone wants, they can get it, right?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And Liz, I know everybody's situation is different. I know that. Like, of course, somebody who can dedicate themselves 100% of their time with studying and upskilling is going to be very different from someone who, I don't know, has small kids and works full time, to cave time to study. Yes, I mean, it's different journeys. That's why I say never compare yourself to somebody else, because everybody's journey is different. But compare to where you were 6 months ago or 3 months ago. That's a comparison you have to do. And for me, like at that time, I was trying to cave time to, because yeah, I was working, but one thing that helped was that this job was remote, so that made a big difference, so I could actually cave time to study. But that took discipline too. So I mean, I still do this. It's just a habit. I wake up at 5 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. I'm not saying people should do this. Please, that's not for everybody. But there was the time that I found that I wake up, my brain's fresh. I can sit there for like an hour before my day starts, and every day 1 hour studying every day, and that accumulates over time. So like I said, don't, if you have time during your lunch and you're like, this is when I can study, or after, late at night. I'm not a late night person at all, but a lot of people are. So if that's the time that you feel more energized, use that time for that. So even if it's just like half an hour a day, you can do it. Yeah. And sometimes like this that I said about having like half an hour a day, you can, I mean, because it's true, there's so many like tools out there that you're like, I don't even know what to do now. But sometimes you are learning a new tool, but sometimes you're using that time to, I don't know, read articles about the industry. Where is the industry going? So using that time like to do something, for you, productive, that you know. Yeah, sometimes you're like, I don't think I want to learn any tool right now, but I want to see where the data industry is going. Or I want to write, like I love writing, so I want to write and read about it. So use that time for, like, something. Just, I don't know, just my
Right.
take.
So how different healthcare industry is, or basically the data analytics in healthcare industry
Mhm,
as compared to other industries like other industries like IT or
mhm,
marketing or like food industries. So what
mhm.
kind of data you deal with on day-to-day life?
Okay, so I can't personally compare with other industries because I have never been in other industry, but I can tell how healthcare is.
Yeah.
I say the main challenge that I see in healthcare, and this is across the board with other, healthcare, um, data healthcare professionals that I have met. It, the main challenge, I think, is because the data is very fragmented. So you have data from claims, you have data from electronic health records, you have data from some hospitals, but not other hospitals. So, from some doctors, but not others. So to integrate this data and paint the full picture is a challenge. I think that's the main challenge in the healthcare industry, and to make the analytics friendly. So, if you think about, let's say, claims, for instance, we get data from claims. The claim is not made to be analyzed. The claim is made for billing. It's made for something completely different. So to bring that, to analyze and bring into the context, that's a challenge. That's definitely a big healthcare challenge that we have, and that's across the board.
Okay, so the data is basically not streamlined, and you have multiple sources, and then there's the problem of messy data, right?
Yeah, it's tough. It really is. Like, in each place has a different process and everything else. So,
Yeah. What kind of tools you work with, if you want to share? Uh, Excel and other tools.
well, so I particularly live in SQL. That's my bread and butter. I am
Okay.
always playing around with SQL. Always. I think that's my main tool. But I have been using Python lately. Quite often, mainly because I have a lot of reports that I have to do every week, and I like to work smarter, not harder. I bet I rather spend a lot of time trying to automate something, so every week I can press a button, it's there, and I don't have to spend hours of my day doing that. So I have learned Python. I have learned some DuckDB to integrate data sets to this is new. I'm still getting around.
Hmm.
So yeah, but that's the nature of my work. But like I say, I have a lot of other data analysts that I know that work mainly in Excel, and other data analysts that I know that work mainly in Tableau or Power BI. So there is definitely like a big variety of tools.
Right, right. That's, I guess, like a lot of tools, and then each
Hmm.
company has different roles to play. Some for some data analysts,
Hmm.
it's all about data visualization, so creating
Hmm.
dashboards, a lot of dashboards,
Hmm.
or and reports in Tableau or
Yeah,
Power BI. And yeah, there are some
yeah,
data analysts as well who are just using Excel to get some reports,
yeah.
especially like
Hmm.
sales data analysts or marketing data
Yeah,
analysts,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Uh, so
So yeah,
whenever,
it's y'all. No, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. In Whenever I see roles posted in the healthcare domain for data analysts, so there's one requirement they try to pick up is should be experienced in the healthcare domain. That's one requirement they have, and generally they don't take people who are not from healthcare domain previously. So why do you think that's necessary?
you know, I think it helps if you come from healthcare because healthcare is so nuanced. So I think it definitely helps if you understand the challenges and the day to day and the constraints, that the people who are going to be using this data, who are going to be working, definitely helps. But I mean, that's a plus. But I also don't say that, oh, if you don't have healthcare experience, don't even bother. I don't even say that. I think, try to think about things, try to think about challenges that the healthcare industry has. And some things you don't even need to be there to be a healthcare professional to understand those challenges. So let me give an example. When you go to the doctor, okay, how many times have you sitting in the waiting area, waiting for, especially emergency rooms, waiting to be called?
Right.
That's a tangible problem, and you are not, even if you're not a healthcare professional, you have been a patient, so that's a problem that oh, you know what, how can I solve this with data? Maybe they need more staffing in certain times of the day or of the week, so let me analyze the volume of patients that they have to see if there's a pattern, and then we can suggest staffing. So right there, it's something that even if you're not a nurse, you're not a doctor, you have been a patient, that's a problem. So how would you solve that? So it's to show those things. So I think, like I said, if you come from healthcare, definitely helps because you had front row seats and you see the challenges from the inside, but you can see the challenges from the outside as well.
Right. Yeah, so it's definitely not a strict requirement to come from healthcare industry, right?
No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, it helps. It does. I mean, definitely does. But I wouldn't be like, oh, don't come from healthcare, so we don't want to see you. No, I mean, that's not the case either. Somewhere in between.
Have you also like worked with people who are trying to implement or solve challenges in the healthcare domain using AI, machine learning models?
I personally haven't. I have been reading about trends, and I think that's one big trend where I think that is going to go. Um, I think people are trying to use AI in virtually every industry. Yeah, so I can see AI being used for things, for mainly for like things for now at least that don't have much liability. Like, for instance, I was reading the other day about using AI to diagnose. And, I think it's a slippery slope because there's something called misdiagnose. And if a doctor misdiagnoses somebody, the doctor can lose the license. And, if the doctor misdiagnoses and recommends a treatment, starts a treatment. But now, if AI is going to be doing that, who is going to be liable? The doctor or the AI that said that this is the disease?
Right.
So I think those more sensitive areas, I don't know if it's gonna go that far ahead. I don't know. I mean, I hope not. I still want a human to diagnose me. But I think there's certain things, for instance, one of the things that I always dreaded doing was notes at the end of the day. I'm like, oh my God, I have to remember what I talk about with my first patient in the morning. And now it's, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and I have to remember that and I have to document everything. So I can see AI maybe helping with that, like maybe have a transcription or something like that. So, which is, of course, there's a certain level of liability, but it's way less than diagnosing.
It's already a very burning question in all the industries that who's responsible at the end if we are using AI. But when it comes to healthcare, it becomes very critical. Like, of course, in other cases, most of the time, there would be some money, which would be like you are dealing with some kind of
Mhm,
financial loss. But when it comes to healthcare domain, that's basically a human life, and that can be very crucial, also legally, then
mhm,
ethically. So yeah, I have been working with some people, not working. I in my connection, in my knowing
mhm,
some friends. One of them is also
mhm,
a doctor, and they are continuously working with uh, startup founders for some AI kind of models, some implementation. And I always ask her that,
Mhm.
okay, then who's the responsible guy? If somebody builds a model, so
Mhm.
will the startup company would be responsible if something happens and the patients or the family members claim, okay,
Mhm.
legally claim something that the
Mhm.
advice was not correct or the treatment was not correct. So yeah, that's, and there is still no answer. But yeah, I hope that
Mhm.
people can focus more on responsible AI rather than just trying to implement everything or saying that okay, AI is gonna do that. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I remember I was talking, I think it was with my dentist actually, the last time I was there, and she was saying that there was some technology that was AI enabled that helped with diagnosing, almost like an X-ray, but a little more, that would give suggestions. Oh, this is a cavity, this is something else. And she said it helps, but it's not 100% accurate. It still makes mistakes. And that's where I come with my clinical knowledge to say, what is, right diagnosis or not. But this is the slippery slope for insurance companies here in the US. They are always asking, not all of them, but a lot of them, they're always asking for more proof to pay a claim. So if the doctor goes and say, this is all the proof, I have the x-ray, I have this, but the AI contradicts what the doctor says, is that going to be paid or not? So there's all those questions marks that I have in healthcare.
Suppose that if someone is entering into the industry and they want to start with the healthcare domain, they don't have any
Hmm.
experience, okay,
Hmm.
in the healthcare domain. So what things they should focus on other than like technical side of the things, like basically tools, we leave tools, other things.
I would say solve problems. Healthcare is not short of problems at all. And I gave this example of, waiting times. That's, something obvious. But if you have access, let's say, somebody who works in the healthcare industry, sit with that person and say, hey, which challenges do you face? Like with a nurse or a doctor, sit and say, what do you see in healthcare that is a big bottleneck? That if you had a magical wand and you could solve this problem tomorrow, what would you do? And listen to what those people, the healthcare professionals are telling you if you don't have that experience. Listen to what they're saying. And that is it, with that you build okay, use more of a technical language, you build your models around the end user and around the reality. And that's because at the end of the day, we're building, we're moving data, we're building pipelines, we're making presentations. Is for what? Is to solve problems. So if you
Right.
don't have the healthcare experience, talk to somebody who has and try to understand what challenges they're facing. That's what I would do.
What kind of new trends you are seeing in the industry while you are there, being here almost for 3 years, 4 years after COVID, sorry, after COVID-19. So, what kind of new trends you are seeing in the industry? Is everything same or things are changing rapidly?
Well, one of the trends is what we already mentioned about AI. I mean, everybody wants to use AI, and in healthcare, where specifically, that's the challenge. But one thing that I think about too, things like wearables, like, hey, watches, like we have, rings that track our movements, that tracks, heartbeat and, all of that. And that's an insane amount of data in real time. So how can we use that, for prevention, to prevent things from happening? So I think that's a trend in healthcare. It's that is that I don't know if people are using this or not, but that's an untapped thing. And I keep thinking, how can we somehow use that to prevent, for instance, if somebody, is doing grocery shopping and their heart starts going and the person doesn't even notice, watch starts going, hey, your heartbeat, you're having a heart attack, something like that. So how can we use this data to track and work on prevention? I think the healthcare as a whole is going more towards prevention than anything.
Right. I have an interesting question. So just got
Yeah.
in my mind that suppose that you said that we are running. Okay, so we are running, so our heartbeat will increase, or suddenly we are rolling in the park and we see that some good machine for exercise. So we have just started exercise. So how would it differentiate? Okay, suppose that you have the data, you are analyzing or you are building some machine learning model for that. So how would you differentiate with that the person is exercising or it is getting any kind of like medical emergency or heart attack kind of things?
That's a good question. I don't know. I have no idea how that. See, that's a very good question. I have no idea. I don't know. That goes again
Yeah,
to
so
nuances and all that goes again to the nuance of what is happening.
yeah, there was an interesting article, very interesting article by yeah, I forgot the name. Like he has released some comparison of different health watches and health bands, and he has written article on that. So it was a very good article, like comprises of different data by
Mhm.
Apple Watch, by Samsung,
Mhm.
Google Fit watches, and some other
Mhm.
watches, and he has given a very comparative analysis of those. So do you
Mhm.
is still like do you believe that all the data we receive in those devices, how much accurate it is, or have you seen those data by watches and by any other machines in the healthcare domain and
You
had
know,
some idea that how to compare?
the other thing that comes to my mind too is the privacy issues because I don't think this just came to my mind. Like I'm just speaking as I think, but there's also the privacy issues too. I don't want a company tracking my movement 24/7. That's another thing too that we
Right,
have to
right.
take into consideration. I personally wouldn't want that. Yes, I would want a certain type of alert to say if something is off, but I don't want a company tracking having access to that. So that's the other thing in healthcare. Like I said, healthcare it's very special.
Okay, yeah, one more question regarding this that, yeah, you said that personal data. So, how do you deal with personal or sensitive data? There would be some rules for that or not when it
There,
comes to patients
yes.
and all.
Yes, there are rules about sensitive data, and it all depends. It's very nuanced. It all depends where you are. There's state rules, there's federal rules, there is, international rules. So it all depends.
Yeah, the guy I was talking about was Andres Carpathy. You would have heard his name. So,
Mm,
he's a very famous guy.
mm, mhm.
Andres Carpathy
No, I haven't. Hmm.
topics. Okay, yeah. So, how do you think that data can make healthcare more patient centric?
I think if we can see the patient as a whole, because that's one thing about healthcare that is very like divided. At least that was my experience when I was, working in healthcare. For instance, like I was in dentistry, and there's this tendency of thinking just the mouth. No, the mouth is connected to everybody, to the person as a whole, to the body, and that body lives in certain circumstances too. So I think to create the full picture of, the data would be very useful to create a whole picture of physical health, mental health, social determinants of health. I think that's where data would be really useful to see. Like, for instance, somebody that keep, I mean, just an example that came to my mind, somebody that keeps missing doctor's appointments, and like it's not, maybe the person doesn't have a way to, get to the doctor, a way of transportation. So where does this person live? The data can tell us, how to track that, to help that person, keep up with the appointments, so I think that's a nice way that data can help, to see that person as a, not only as an individual, but as, part of society. I don't know.
Right. So that's a very good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last question before wrapping up. Okay. So I I just forgot what. Sorry. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, just the last before wrapping up, can you have some like three advices if you want to give for people who are working in the data industry as data professionals or who are just starting? Okay.
I would say honestly, because that's something that I did in the beginning. I was fall in love with the tools, but not with the problem, and that was a mistake. Try to fall in love with problem solving and the tools as a means to solve that problem. I think that's my hands down my main advice.
Okay. That's one advice. Two more advices.
Oh, two more. Ooh, okay. That was just one. What's for three advices? Okay, so I think that's number one. Number two, always learn. Always, this is an industry that changes super fast. It's very fast-paced industry. So definitely keep up with learning. And I think my third advice would be network. And by network, I do not mean do a transactional, like think about this. You'd never walk to a stranger, a person you never met, and like, hey, can you get me a job? Don't do that. Don't do that. I
Right.
mean, I would never do this. But build a network just by, talking to people. Be nice to people, talk to people, not with anything in mind of, oh, I'm gonna have a favor with this person. No, talk to other professionals, learn from other professionals, and give back. Share your knowledge too, and create that. So I think create rapport with people. That's, I think, my main advice. So those three, I think, would be the main
Thank you.
advices.
Thank you so much. I hope these advices would help any data professional and also someone who wants to get into the healthcare industry or especially data industry. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you so much for
of course.
giving your time. Yeah.